channel. You're watching Keto Rewind. Today I'm going to make my meatloaf that I always talk about in all my videos. So this is what you'll need. Almond flour, some ground chuck. I like to make a big meatloaf so that I can eat off of it a couple days. It saves time. And then I like to make like meatloaf croutons to put on my salad. There'll be another video for that. Click that link. But the meatloaf is easy. You could bring it to lunch the next day. You can make so much stuff with meatloaf. So I like to make meatloaf. Either sometimes I'll do it with ground turkey or I'll do beef. Today I'm gonna do beef, but the recipe would be the same. You would just swap out the meat. I'm Italian, so I make kind of like an Italian meatloaf. So I had Parmesan cheese, my homemade keto ketchup that's sugar-free. There's another recipe for that. Click there. It's so delicious. You won't even miss the Heinz or Hunt's or any of those brands of ketchup, because this one actually tastes better. And then you'll need about a half onion, depending on how much. I'll make like a half onion for 2 pounds, and a pepper. And obviously to bind it, an egg. So I'm gonna dice and prepare these, and I will see you at the next step. Okay, you're gonna need a big bowl, and I like to hide vegetables in meatloaf for my kids. If I leave these in big chunks, they'll see them. So I dice my pepper and onion really small, and now also so that they have the same consistency as the meatloaf and it's not a big chunk of vegetable, I like to pan fry them first, season them, and then mix them up when I make the rest of my meatloaf. So I have about 2 tablespoons of butter here. And let me take the camera over. So, as you can see, I have a half onion and 1 large green pepper, diced up finely. And let's bring this over to my pan here. All right, we have some butter going in the pan, and let's add in our veggies. And we're gonna saute these until they're just a little browned, but we want them cooked through. Saute, I added a little salt and pepper to it, just a pinch. We're gonna season everything else in the big pan, but right now I'm just cooking these through. My kids will not eat their meatloaf if they see vegetables in it. It's weird though, because they'll eat peppers dipped in ranch. They'll eat their weight of those, but yet if it's in a meatloaf, they don't like it. So I don't know, but whatever works, right? So we're gonna let these just come, a little bit cooked, and I'll be back for the next step. Actually, let's measure out our spices. Get a big pan. The spices I like to use: onion powder, garlic powder, and like I said, I'm Italian, so I make an Italian twist. I normally add celery to this too, but I forgot celery at the store. But I like to add an Italian seasoning: onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper, and obviously Parmesan cheese. So I normally never measure because I have made this so many times. So I'm gonna guess at the amounts that I put in. Right now I'm gonna put garlic, a good teaspoon of garlic, a good teaspoon of onion powder. It's weird measuring spices because I usually just pour it in my hand you know. So I'm gonna do a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And about a half cup, kind of get a little, a half cup of Parmesan cheese, but I may add more in. It depends on how wet it is, but I'll use a good solid half cup of Parmesan cheese. And that just gives it such a good flavor. This one's, I got at Costco. And so that I like to kind of like, I don't know what the word is, not really dry it out because the nuts aren't going to absorb any liquid, but it does give it just a little bit smoother texture. So about a quarter cup of, which is half of this, a quarter cup of almond flour. And then I may need to adjust these two depending on once the egg is in there and the meat, and you know, so we'll come back for that. But in the meantime, let's see how our veggies are doing over here. They're looking good. It smells so good. I love making meatloaf. I call it my Italian meatloaf. I'm so bummed I don't have my celery in here, but you would just put celery in this mixture and cook it up. And like I said before, I make my own ketchup, my own sugar-free ketchup. I'll link I'll put the link below in the description. It seriously is so good, and it keeps you on plan. So, in the meantime, I will put ground chuck, 2 pounds of ground chuck in my little mixture here. And then salt and pepper wise, it's always hard to judge. So I like to just give a guesstimate. Now just as the vegetables are coming to, I'm going to hit it with just a splash of Marsala wine. That's a completely optional step. It's just something I do with my meatloaf, and it's why I'm Italian, and that's what Italians do. They flavor with Marsala wine. I would say probably 2 tablespoons. That's completely optional, but boy does it make the flavors of the vegetable medley here just so yummy. And as soon as that renders down, I'm going to mix it into our beef mixture here. But I'm going to take the pink salt. I'm telling you, if you have not had pink salt, haven't switched your pink salt yet, you have to. It's night and day difference. I would never go back to using white table salt again. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of salt in. I like, let's see, we'll do 1.5 teaspoons salt. Half of this. And we'll see how that is. And then pepper, probably a half teaspoon of pepper. You could do that to taste. And then I also like to give it a squirt. I'm gonna guess probably 2 to 3 tablespoons of ketchup. And last but not least, 1 egg. And that kind of just binds it all together. Okay, now it's time to add the veggies. The veggies are nice and sauteed and browned in that Marsala. I let them cool for a few minutes before I'm just gonna drop them directly in here. But it smells so good. You want that little bit of char to give it so much flavor. I'm telling you, if you're not a meatloaf fan, you will be after this meatloaf. So now I'm gonna try and mix it this way, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to use my hands. So take your jewelry off before handling meat. Okay, let's get dirty here. So I'm gonna mix all of these ingredients up, and then, oh, the smell is just amazing. Now, I thought that it wouldn't taste good without the breadcrumbs when I first started making it, without it, but I've actually not been using breadcrumbs in my meatloaf for a long time. Like, I was still 309 pounds and not putting breadcrumbs in, because this has so much flavor, it really didn't need any breadcrumbs. So it's all about what you put in it and flavor-wise. But you'll see real quick how delicious. And like I said, I'm cooking ahead of time. Like, this is meal prep. My kids are in school. It's the morning time. I have time right now, so it's all about planning. If I would have waited until just before I either go get my kids from school, or maybe I forget and push off, I swear it will set me up for so much more failure. So it's just so much easier if you have time. Prep these ahead of time. See how good that sticks together without any breadcrumbs? So I take it to my pan and just shape out a meatloaf. I like to do kind of a flatter sized meatloaf, and it's gonna shrink down, but we're gonna get 2 nights of a meal out of this, my family. My kids aren't that big yet, so we get away with making a little bit smaller, but it helps it cook a little better when I make it a little flatter. And you're gonna cook this in your oven at 400 it ranges, I start it at like 35 minutes, and then I'll take a temperature of the inside, and as soon as it gets to 165 in the middle, I take it out. So, but there's one more step, but I have to wash my hands. Okay, so now the final step, I'm just gonna put ketchup on the top and just smooth it in. And that just gives it a nice little crust for the top and a little bit more flavor. So this recipe is so easy to make. You've got to try it. So I'm going to be back, obviously, when it's time to cook it. It's not time, it's only like 9 o'clock in the morning. So obviously I'm not going to be cooking a meatloaf right now, but I will be back when it's time to cook it, so you can see the finished product. Voila! She's done.